Hello and welcome. You're watching We Mean Business and we're talking on a very important issue. Temporary staffing or temping is gaining acceptance across industries in India. Companies are recruiting employees on a temporary basis, mainly for a particular project, paying them off and then letting them go as soon as the project may be over. The temps, they work for a client company while being on the rolls of a third party, and there are well over 500,000 workers or even more in the country who are temp workers. An industry that is growing in size and which is now, it seems, here to stay. Today on We Mean Business, we discuss the phenomenon of temping among companies, and we'll be speaking to several very important people on the entire issue. Ashok Reddy, Managing Director and Co-founder at Teamlease. Nadeem Kazim, Director HR and Personnel at Exide Industries. Vikram Shroff, Head Employment and Labour Law at Nishith Desai Associates. Prithvi Shergill, Chief Human Resources Officer at HCL Technologies. And Balaji, Managing Director and CEO at Randstad India. Thank you so much everyone for joining us. Thanks for taking out the time for this very important issue. The first question to Mr. Reddy I'd like to ask you. In the context of what we're seeing in the entire economy, what is driving this phenomenon of temping, and what is it here to stay? How do you see this entire industry?
Temping is always a springboard in good times and a shock absorber in bad times. And in any evolving economy, the employment structure is always to have a percentage of employment at the various organization industry end structured around a temporary workforce. So as economies evolve, 3 to 4% of the workforce tends to go into a temp mode. If we look at the Indian workforce and the element of the 500,000 or a little more than that exists today on a temporary basis, it's but a fraction of the opportunity that exists in the Indian context. And I think that's really where the exponential growth and the lever of using temporary workforce for industry, for companies across the country has a tremendous potential and opportunity.
Mr. Balaji, what sectors are seeing maximum IT services and IT-enabled services one knows about, but where is it catching up? What is driving this number? And if what's your estimate of the kind of numbers that we are seeing right now?
Yeah, I think if you look at the whole industry in India, we estimate about 0.6 million. That's about 600,000 temporary workers are there between organized large established players at this point of time. Sectors which are big consumers of these services, one is the secondary sales workforce, or what you called as the FMCG durable industry is a big consumer of these services. The second largest consumer is the telecom industry, and the third would be the financial services industry. So these three would be some of the biggest sectors at this point of time.
Also from a manufacturing standpoint, since you mentioned some of those industries, telecom of course is services, auto you mentioned, and of course banking and financial services that you mentioned. Where exactly are you seeing in terms of the adoption for that, Mr. Kazim? If your perspective, from your perspective and a manufacturing perspective, how easy is it to get the temp worker, and given the kind of laws that we have in the country, how easy is it to push it in an industry like this?
I look at it from two perspectives. One is temping of blue-collared staff, which is typically happening in the brownfield operations, where people with ITI and diplomas are being taken at an early stage in the organization till the organization forms up its number and also have the requisite experience so that these people can run the plant. So I see this happening in a big way. And secondly, also I see, as far as temping is concerned, more to do in the sales promotion space. Any company which launches products, so they need sales force for the promotions of the product, and also how do we kind of take temping with respect to service technicians, with respect to sales assistants, also data entry operation job, facility management into manufacturing. So there are huge space also in the manufacturing space where I see temping taking shape.
Okay, also get a legal perspective into this. Mr. Shroff, because of the kind of labor laws we have in the country, what are some of the worries that companies have the moment you change the workforce from what is traditionally called permanent workers to the temp workers? What are some of those big issues that come up, and how are we trying to address that?
Possibly the biggest issue from an Indian perspective is the fact that temping arrangements in the Indian context are really meant for activities that were not perennial in nature, largely activities those that were incidental or not core to the establishment. We have a law by the name the Contract Labour Regulation and Abolition Act, which basically governs this kind of an arrangement, and both the principal employer as well as the contractor is required to obtain certain permissions of the Labour Department prior to pursuing this kind of an arrangement. And based on historical facts, the permission is granted by the Labour Department only for those activities that are not core to the organization. And this is the challenge that we are facing in terms of how to have these arrangements, legally speaking, for core activities of an organization.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app, fully optimized for retina display, full screen view, faster response time, and Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.